You're watching France 24. It's time now for a business news update. For that, I'm joined in the studio by Owen Fairclough. Good morning, Owen.
Hi, Catherine.
Going on to this story, which has been developing for some time, this rate rigging scandal. Started off, apparently, we heard about it at Barclays. Now it's widening out.
Well, you know, Catherine, as you say, it's been on the cards for some time now. In fact, the UK financial authorities had hinted at this earlier in the week, saying this wasn't just about Barclays, it wasn't just about UK banks, and now we know why. It appears now that some of Europe and indeed some of the world's biggest banking names are now being dragged into this scandal over the manipulation of Libor, that's the interbank lending rates. It appears now that some of the French banks, Deutsche Bank and indeed HSBC, are all now under some form of inquiry over potentially the rigging of Euribor. This is the cousin, if you like, of Libor, another acronym to get your tongue around. This is a similar kind of system. There are 43 banks, most of Europe's biggest banks, all the household names that you would recognise within that. They are now, as I say, under some form of inquiry. We don't know how advanced that investigation is. Most of these banks are not commenting at the moment, particularly Deutsche Bank and HSBC. The three French banks have been named, are the big ones, Société Générale, BNP Paribas and Crédit Agricole.
The French authorities have been quick to say that French banks here, it's all above board.
Well, you do get the feeling there is a bit of a rearguard action being fought by individual authorities in these countries. And you're right, Christian Noyes, the head of France's central bank, was quoted yesterday in an interview saying that all three French banks' questions, that's SocGen, BNP and Crédit Agricole, have been questioned. The response appears to be satisfactory. As far as he's concerned, no action has yet been taken against those banks. SocGen, for its part, has said it is cooperating with the inquiry, but the other two French banks here haven't answered.
So it seems to be a different message depending on which country you're in at the time. What about the US? They've also clearly been linked to this Libor scandal.
It does seem a bit confusing, doesn't it, with the UK authorities saying it's not just Barclays involved, and yet the French saying, well, look, as far as we're concerned, our banks have a clean bill of health in this. The US as well, Ben Bernanke, the Federal Reserve Chairman, was talking about this when he was delivering his biannual address to Congress. What he wants is some kind of reform of Libor. He said that two of the US banks named in this inquiry, that's Citigroup and Bank of America, are also cooperating, but he's looking beyond that. He thinks that it's time that we had some sort of replacement for Libor that could be linked to things like UK Treasury. He's going to get his request to some degree. That's because in September, the UK Central Bank is likely to get together other central bankers from around Europe and the US to discuss some sort of reform.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, how are the markets doing this morning?
Yeah, good day's trading so far. If you're invested in Hong Kong, particularly up around, well, over 1.5%. And in fact, the Hang Seng is up more than 2.5% for this week. You can see the Nikkei as well, just a little bit behind, around 0.9%. Lots of earnings out this week. It is a big one. We are well into the earnings season for the second quarter. Congratulations if you're invested in eBay. Its second quarter earnings up 144%. That's because of booming sales linked to people using their smartphones more and more to trade and buy on eBay. IBM as well, also reporting earnings that beat expectations, but a little bit down.
I did not put any money into eBay. I'm very disappointed
Catherine
about
Norris
that.
Trent is not selling on eBay. Well, there we go.
Well, next, it's proving a summer of discontent for Peugeot. The French car maker's plans to cut up to 8,000 jobs in its home country have incensed the new socialist government of President François Hollande. But the firm is standing by that decision, and that's setting the scene for a lengthy battle, Catherine Viette reports.
They're mounting between the French government and struggling car maker PSA Peugeot Citroën. The company announced last week it would need to cut 8,000 jobs to stay competitive, a move that's angered the French industry minister.
We have a real problem with Peugeot's strategy, the alliance with GM, and shareholder behavior.
Arnaud Montebourg went on to accuse the Peugeot family of putting its own interests first, a claim denied by the family, who responded in a statement saying it's always given priority to the group's development and strategy, not hesitating to dilute its stake when the situation demands. PSA is France's biggest car maker and second in Europe to Germany's Volkswagen. But faced with falling sales, it's decided to close its plant outside of Paris. The move has sparked union anger and underlined the difficulties French industry faces in competing in international markets. The government has described PSA's moves as unacceptable and says it will present a plan for saving the auto industry on July 25th.
We're moving away from the cash for scrap scheme and steering towards more substantial forms of support for vehicles that are clean and innovative.
The government says any proposed aid package would not be unconditional.
Okay, a few more of the day's business headlines for you now, starting in Spain, where the government is once again testing investor confidence in the government as it looks to raise €3 billion in credit as protesters take to the streets over fresh cutbacks. The Treasury will try to reduce pressure on its soaring long-term borrowing costs by selling 1- and 5-year bonds that carry a slightly lower interest rate. Spain is battling to maintain access to international credit markets after submitting to a €100 billion bailout for its banks.
Nokia is expected to announce even more losses in its results out later. Reuters estimate the Finnish mobile phone maker lost around €700 million for the second quarter. The results to be announced at 1 p.m. Paris time come just days after Nokia halved the price of its flagship phone in the US, though overall sales are expected to have doubled.
And Manchester United will begin their stock market flotation in New York next week. That's a whole month ahead of schedule. According to Reuters, the English football club will begin preliminary work on pricing for its return to equity markets. The club is now looking to raise around $300 million. That's significantly less than the $1 billion reportedly saw when Man U was considering Hong Kong and Singapore for its IPO.
All right, we're going to stay with football finance now, Owen, because it's a sensation here in Paris. The signing of Swedish star Zlatan Ibrahimovic is causing quite a stir at Paris Saint-Germain. The club's Qatari owners have given it leverage of French football clubs can only dream of. But at 90 times the size of President François Hollande's salary, Ibrahimovic's arrival has left a bitter taste in the mouth of some in the government.
Not content with tackling the country's budget deficit, the French government is now also worrying about European football clubs' finances. Paris Saint-Germain's Qatari investors have already spent around €110 million on new players this year. The latest addition is Zlatan Ibrahimovic for an estimated €20 million. An excessive amount, says France's sports minister.
We need to find a way to regulate professional football. All European clubs combined currently have a €1.5 billion deficit. If we don't find a way to make it fairer on all the teams, such as by capping players' salaries, then you end up with these kind of colossal excesses.
Rising wage bills in football are nothing new. The rates have skyrocketed over the last 30 years. In 1980, French soccer superstar Michel Platini was earning the equivalent of €40,000 a month, while in 2000, World Cup winner Zinedine Zidane was earning 10 times as much. But some say Ibrahimovic's €14 million salary over 3 years is a game changer for French clubs.
In relation to the rest of French football, Paris has created a huge economic discrepancy. It's enormous.
The French government may take their time considering when and if they will cap players' salaries, though. Ibrahimovic's pay packet would put him in line for President Hollande's proposed 75% income tax rate.
It is a great deal of money, isn't it, really, Owen?
A huge amount of money, and as we heard there, he's going to easily be in that top tier of French stars. It's hard to see how the French could introduce a salary cap, though. This is more of a matter for UEFA, really. Of course, that would cause imbalances in European football.
OK, we've got to leave it there. Sorry about that, Owen. That's it for the business news. Stay tuned to France 24. More news coming up very soon.